The sky turns a bruised greenish black you've never seen before. Your neighborhood suddenly looks like it belongs on another planet. A sound builds from the southwest, somewhere between a waterfall and a freight train, and it will not stop growing louder. In the next 12 minutes, the air around your house will do things to the human body that engineers still struggle to simulate. Could you survive the most violent force in Earth's atmosphere? And do you know what it does to you at every distance from center? An EF5 tornado produces wind exceeding 200 miles per hour, and the scale itself has no defined upper limit. The fastest wind ever recorded inside a tornado was 321 miles per hour, the 1999 Bridge Creek Moore tornado in Oklahoma. For context, that wind is at ground level, loaded with every piece of debris from everything it has already torn apart. The United States alone averages roughly 1,200 tornadoes every year, killing about 70 to 80 people annually. But the math gets unsettling. Violent tornadoes rated EF4 or EF5 make up barely 1 to 2% of all storms, yet that tiny fraction is responsible for roughly 2/3 of every tornado death recorded in the country. The average person never thinks about what happens as one approaches. Let's trace the path from 1 mile out to dead center. It starts further out than you'd expect. A mile away, the wind is already strong enough to change what your body can do. Wind at 45 miles per hour can push an adult sideways. At 70, it knocks you flat off your feet. Even the weakest category on the scale, an EF0, begins at 65 miles per hour, meaning no tornado is truly harmless. Cato hears the siren and does what millions have been taught. He runs through the house, opening every window. The logic sounds reasonable. Equalize pressure so the house won't explode. It feels like real physics, which is exactly why this myth persists. Texas Tech researchers showed the pressure drop inside a 260-mile-per-hour tornado is only about 10%, roughly 1.4 psi. Your house isn't destroyed by a pressure bomb. It's ripped apart by wind force pushing walls inward and lifting the roof. Every window Cato opened is now a channel for that wind. Air rushes inside and pushes upward on the roof from below. He wasted the most critical seconds he had. Seconds he needed to reach real shelter. Here's something that surprised me. The largest tornadoes hide a structure so strange that scientists laughed when it was first proposed in the 70s. They're called suction vortices. Smaller funnels dancing inside the main funnel, usually spinning in groups of 2 to 5. Each one lasts less than a minute but adds over 100 miles per hour on top of the tornado's already extreme wind. That's why one house is scraped to bare slab, while the home 30 feet away still has pictures on the wall. Strangely beautiful chaos. At half a mile out, you cross into EF2 and EF3 territory. The physics shift from dangerous to genuinely lethal. A 15-pound 2x4 and 250 mile per hour wind becomes a horizontal projectile traveling at 100 miles per hour. That's the exact impact test FEMA uses to certify tornado safe rooms. A real board fired from a cannon at reinforced concrete. What do you think is the #1 cause of death inside a tornado? Nearly everyone guesses the wind itself. The real answer is flying debris. Blunt force trauma to the head and body kills more people than any other mechanism. Head injury is the most frequent cause of death, and fractures are the most frequent reason survivors need hospitalization. A tornado isn't a wind disaster, it's a debris disaster, and that distinction reshapes every survival decision you'll make. At a quarter mile, EF4 territory, winds reach between 166 and 200 miles per hour. The most common injury, soft tissue wounds, becomes dramatically worse here because of a phenomenon almost unique to tornadoes. High-velocity soil, sand, and water create a sandblasting effect that scours exposed skin at speeds you'd associate with highway travel. The grit hits every exposed surface like a wall of hot needles, stripping fabric and shredding clothing within seconds. What would you do right now? Head for the basement or try to outrun it in your car? That answer depends entirely on timing. We'll reach the decision tree shortly, because it's far less obvious than you'd think. Not everyone caught inside a tornado's grip dies, and one case demonstrates this in a way that defies belief. On March 12, 2006, Matt Suter was inside his Missouri mobile home when an EF2 tornado struck without warning. A lamp knocked him unconscious. He woke up 1,307 feet away in an open field, roughly 4 football fields. He survived with minor injuries and holds the Guinness World Record for farthest distance carried by a tornado. Now here's what's fascinating. Dr. Fujita studied over 17,000 tornadoes and found 78% travel from southwest to northeast. That pattern follows the jet stream, which steers storms across the continent like an invisible highway through the upper atmosphere. Even more surprising, researchers now believe the entire tornado corridor is slowly migrating eastward, away from the Great Plains. Places that never worried about tornadoes are quietly entering the danger zone. The geography of risk is shifting beneath our feet. But everything described so far? That's not even the worst part. What happens when you cross the wall into the inner core? The Joplin, Missouri EF5 on May 22, 2011, gave residents just 17 minutes of warning before touchdown. It carved a path nearly 22 miles long, almost a mile wide, killing 158 people in 38 minutes. 17 minutes. That's the entire window between hearing a siren and needing to already be sheltered and braced. Now imagine you're inside the vortex, winds exceeding 200 miles per hour, with no upper limit on the scale. The pressure plummets. The greatest drop ever measured inside a tornado was 194 millibars, recorded in Tulia, Texas. Your ears pop violently, not from altitude, but from the atmosphere being physically ripped away by the spinning column around you. A tornado can loft a person tens to hundreds of meters into the air, in extreme cases, over a kilometer vertically. The height isn't what kills, it's the three-dimensional debris field, a mid-air blender of shattered wood, glass, and steel. Mobile homes make up roughly 6% of U.S. housing, but account for nearly half of all tornado deaths at home. That's a death risk 15 to 20 times higher. If you're in a mobile home when a warning sounds, leaving is not optional. The 2013 Moore EF5 killed 24 people, including 7 children, when their school wall collapsed, despite 16 minutes of warning. This is where knowledge draws the line between survival and tragedy. 5 steps, in order, worth memorizing now. 1. Get to the lowest floor of the sturdiest building within reach, ideally underground in a basement or storm cellar. 2. Find the smallest interior room with no windows, a closet, a bathroom, anything with maximum walls between you and outside. 3. Get under sturdy furniture and shield yourself with a mattress or thick blankets. Debris is the primary killer. 4. If caught outside with no shelter, lie flat in the lowest ground you can find and cover your head with your arms. 5. Never shelter under a highway overpass. Wind accelerates through the gap, and this myth has killed people in documented outbreaks. If someone near you freezes, a child, a neighbor, a stranger, guide them through these steps aloud, one at a time. Under extreme stress, the brain stops processing complex decisions. Your calm voice giving numbered instructions becomes the most powerful tool. This time, Cato knows better. He skips the windows, pulls his family into the interior closet, covers them with the heaviest mattress. The wrong path ends at an open window as the roof peels away, or clinging to an overpass railing in 300-mile-per-hour debris. Now you know. You carry something the majority never learn until it's already too late to act. Type "get low" in the comments if you'll remember the rule that matters most. Lowest floor, interior room, protect your head. Share this with anyone in tornado country. They think they know the plan, but the overpass myth alone could cost a life. What's the scariest weather event you've lived through? Did you know what to do, or were you completely guessing? Tornadoes are survivable when you understand the science. But what happens when heat itself becomes the weapon? Your body above 40 degrees Celsius, breaking down 1 degree at a time, system by system. That's next.